everyone, my name is Jack from Cultaholic.com and welcome to Wrestlers of the Week episode 50. The big 5-0. Get on up when you're down. Baby, take a good look around. I know it's not much, but it's okay. Wrestlers of the Week anyway. Yep, that'll do. That's right, we're approaching the end of the year and that means that Wrestlers of the Week is 50 weeks old. I can't believe we've made it. I can't believe we made it through the G1 when it was just New Japan guy after New Japan guy. I can't quite believe it. But anyway, we have a tremendous week of wrestling to look through as well. People from NXT, people from WWE's main roster, people from New Japan, all kind of thrown in there. A lovely smorgasbord of excellent wrestling to pick from and to assign points to. So without any further ado, let's take a look at some honourable mentions. There's a lot to get through. Let's start off with, well, Asuka, Charlotte and Becky all get an honourable mention. I almost had Asuka on the list, but it was a pretty stacked week and she didn't quite make it despite that excellent SmackDown main event where she looked like a beast once again. But I couldn't quite include her because I felt like her, Charlotte and Becky were all integral to the success of that segment. And I just couldn't include any one of them really. Asuka got the closest though, and I suspect that all three are going to have a chance to get on the list next week. Maybe even all three will get on at the same time. Who knows? Secondly, I want to give a big shout out to everyone who wrestled on 205 Live this week. It was really, really good, as many episodes of 205 Live are, but I don't know if anyone made quite enough of an impression to make it onto the list. But a big shout out to all four men who wrestled on that show: Buddy, Grand Metalik, Tony Nese and Cedric as well. Well done, all four lad boys. From one set of lad boys to another, let's go to NXT UK where Joe Coffey and Trent Seven had a really good match. Lad boys, never lose it, lad boys. Tai Chi as well over in New Japan. He lost to Will Ospreay, and Tai Chi's never like the best wrestler in the world or anything, but he put in an admirable performance, although I will say it was very much a case of one wrestler kind of carrying another through the match there. Ospreay was in effect making Tai Chi look as good as he possibly could, but still a decent performance from Tai Chi indeed, even though he came out on the losing end of things. Willie Mack and Shane Strickland had an excellent showing at that House of Hardcore event, which has become a bit infamous on the internet actually, because it was the event where Big Cass sadly suffered a seizure, and we wish him a full and speedy recovery, of course. And finally as well, I want to shout out Dylan James of All Japan Pro Wrestling, because he and his tag partner won the All Japan Tag League that was kind of overshadowed by New Japan's Tag League over the past few weeks, but at the same time, fair play to Dylan for winning it. His partner was injured going into the tournament, so he's had to do most of the heavy lifting going through, and picked up the big old win as well. Well done, Dylan. I've realised I keep looking down at the list to check his name each and every time I do so. Dylan James, didn't need to look that time. You found a place in my heart. So that's the honourable mentions out of the way. Let's move on to number 10. Picking up 1 point this week, it's my fashion icon and handsome bastard, Sanada. Sanada's a bit of a controversial one, I'll be honest with you. He, alongside LIJ stablemate and tag team partner and best friend Evil, won the New Japan Tag League this past weekend, but I almost didn't include him on this list. I almost even shoved Asuka in just ahead of him and he would have been relegated to the honourable mentions. I included him because winning the New Japan Tag League is a pretty big achievement, and it's been a decent little tournament as well over the past few weeks. But crucially, in the final against GOD, Sanada went for an admittedly ambitious spot. It was some kind of backflippy moonsault thing into his signature skull end finisher, and he botched it. And now, I don't want to suggest that a wrestler botching a move means that they won't get onto the Wrestlers of the Week table, because a botch isn't necessarily the end of the world if the match is still good. The match was still pretty good, but the botch dropped Sanada down a few places from where I was going to put him. Yeah, that's right. This is a ruthless system, Sanada, mate. Better buck up your ideas, big lad, if you want to hoover up some more points before the end of the year. No, I love Sanada and I was really sad that he botched that move, but as I say, the match was a good one and he does deserve to retain a place on the Wrestlers of the Week league table. Just, you're a lucky boy. Very lucky boy indeed. I love his fashion sense and his face and his hair and everything. Oh, what a man. Number 9, Cedric Alexander. Whoa, Jack, you mentioned him in the honourable mentions. That was a trick. It was a ruse. You've been absolutely bamboozled. 50 weeks deep and I'm still throwing surprises out on Wrestlers of the Week. You can't do it like I do. It's gonna be one of those episodes, is it? I've not even had an energy drink. Usually it's when I've got an energy drink in my system that I get all weird, but this time, just running off water. It's just one of those days. Cedric Alexander had a great match in the main event of 205 Live against Tony Nese and won. I'm surprised. I thought Tony Nese was going to win because basically at the top of the 205 Live roster for the past few months now, you've had Buddy, Cedric and Mustafa Ali all just like some sort of merry-go-round, all kind of switching places. Buddy's now obviously the champion. Cedric was the champion for a bit. Mustafa Ali hasn't been the champion, but is still always in contention at the top of that roster. And the other guys are kind of struggling to fit in here and there. It's a bit strange. So I thought this would be a chance to shake things up, maybe show that Tony Nese is worthy of appearing on a main roster pay-per-view, maybe fighting for that cruiserweight title, but that's not what happened at all. They stuck with Cedric. I have to give Cedric credit where it's due. I think he's one of the best in-ring workers on the entire roster. So fair play. But give others a chance. Give Drew Gulak a chance is what I'm saying. He's one of my favourites on the 205 Live roster. He's hilarious. He's great in the ring. Give Drew Gulak a chance. I don't know if he even appeared on the show. He might have done a promo. I'm not sure. But no, Cedric Hoover's up the 2 points, further proving himself. And what a year it's been on the Wrestlers of the Week league table for Cedric, alongside, of course, someone that we're going to see on this list a little bit later on. See if you can guess who it is. It's someone that I've already mentioned. You're going to know who it is. If you watch SmackDown, you'll know. Anyway, moving on now to number 8, and a man who I was delighted to see make his glorious return to NXT this week, Tyler Breeze. Yes, in the words of Tyler Breeze's entrance music, oh my god, it's Tyler. That's exactly the inflection they use in that tune. So, Tyler Breeze returned to NXT and it was fantastic. The crowd popped huge for him. He was like the returning prodigal son to NXT. We all know about Tyler's trials and tribulations on the main roster. And then when he was partnered with Fandango, it looked like everything was going to go okay. They were never going to be like a huge, awesome, dominating tag team, even though they perhaps should have been given a chance to be because of the skills of Tyler Breeze particularly, and also Fandango as well. But then they kind of got bogged down, and then they made the most out of a bad situation with those excellent comedy segments. Eventually they went nowhere, sadly, and now Fandango's injured and Breeze is a bit lost. He's a bit adrift on Raw now, and I think this was a very wise decision to send him back down to NXT to have a match with Ricochet, and it was just an awesome spectacle and reminded us all that Tyler Breeze is a phenomenal little wrestler. For those unaware, maybe you're a newer fan of WWE, maybe you only got on board in the past year or two, I'll break it down for you, don't worry about that. Tyler Breeze basically was a stud in the early days of NXT. Not like the reality show version of NXT, but the NXT as an excellent developmental brand sort of incarnation. Yeah, he was one of the best guys. Never quite won the NXT Championship, but had some very good matches, especially at some of the early takeovers against the likes of Sami Zayn, I think Finn Balor at one point as well. He was in an excellent four-way match, also involving Neville, and who was the Tyson Kidd as well. Yeah, Tyler Breeze had some great times in NXT. Really glad to see him return, and I hope this sets a precedent for the future where other main roster guys can occasionally just dip in and out, maybe to help put someone over, get a bit of momentum themselves, and yeah, I think the system's pretty good. Crucially though, Tyler lost! You big loser! You big dick. No, it was a good match though. Number 7, his opponent, the future of flight, Ricochet. I'm starting to sound like a DJ's sort of audio tracks in between songs where they're like, get ready for the next bit. That was better than I thought it was going to be, that. Oh, have I unearthed a new little talent for myself there? Let's find out in future. Ricochet had a good match against Tyler Breeze. He was doing all of his Ricochet things. He was landing on his feet out of big back suplexes. He was charging across the ring, hitting big knees and that sort of thing, conducting himself generally with the impossible grace that makes him one of the finest wrestlers in the world. This got me thinking, this match, because Ricochet is obviously in the midst of the NXT North American title reign and is doing really well for himself, but at the same time, I kind of think, where does he go once he's dropped that belt? Does he go to the NXT main event scene and compete for the NXT Championship? Does he just jump to the main roster? Surely not 205 Live. You can obviously see him on SmackDown doing really well. I could also see him on Raw, which is obviously more about storylines, often weird storylines, over in-ring action all of the time. But I can see Ricochet working there as well, because Rollins does well there, and I'd say he was more of an in-ring guy over a promo guy, excellent though he is at promos. So I think Ricochet could work really well on the main roster, but as we know, as people like Tyler Breeze have proven, success in NXT doesn't necessarily translate to success on the main roster, no matter how superb you are as a wrestler. Then again, some people who don't look like they're going to do so well on the main roster, like Elias for example, take to it like a duck to bloody water. But he does have a gimmick, doesn't he? He's got his guitar and that. Interesting developments ahead for Ricochet, I feel. Next up, number 6, and when I was checking this list back over, I had to check it once and check it twice and find out who'd be naughty and nice and also evil as well. It's evil from New Japan. The reason I had to check my list several times was because this is apparently Evil's first appearance in the entire series in 2018, which really surprised me given his absolute breakout year of 2017 when he was like beating Okada. I think he beat Okada at one point, maybe in the G1. He was having excellent singles matches left, right and centre. Looked like he was going to be the breakout member of LIJ. And then in 2018, Sanada started to sort of position himself as the breakout member. And then eventually, Hiromu Takahashi was just insanely good in the junior division. And Evil and Sanada kind of got shoved off into the tag team division and forgotten a little bit. But I expected Evil to come back at some point, and he just didn't really get another chance in singles competition. Not much of a chance anyway. So I was really surprised actually to see that Evil hadn't made it onto this list yet, but just at the end there, just within the last few weeks of the series, he's managed to do so. As I previously mentioned, alongside Sanada, Evil won New Japan's Tag League and was, well, he was the wrestler who didn't botch in the final. So that's alright, isn't it? That sounds proper mean on Sanada, that sounds really harsh. And honestly, this is like a personal opinion that I'm just thrusting into Wrestlers of the Week. All of Wrestlers of the Week is my personal opinion, but this is a particular bit of bias I'm going to bestow upon you. I prefer Sanada to Evil. I don't quite fully get Evil's gimmick. I know that he's evil, and then he carries like a big scythe and he has purple hair and stuff. Purple hair is obviously an evil attribute to have. But I don't get it. I get Sanada, he's cool, he's icy, he's emotionless, he's awesome in the ring. Evil's great too, but it just seems a bit simplistic for me. He's evil, but he's not even that much of a heel because he's part of LIJ. Regardless, I'm working myself up here. What I will say is that Evil wrestled a great match in the final of the Tag League, capping off overall a very impressive performance in the Tag League generally. He may have been the overall MVP of the entire tournament, so have a smattering of points, Evil, you big sexual bastard. Number 5, our WWE champion, Mr. Daniel Bryan, whose heel turn has been one of the best of the year. It's been excellent. He's totally reinvented himself. The fact that Daniel Bryan, the man that everybody wanted to see return to wrestling more than anyone on the planet, and then did so, the fact that he has managed to effectively turn heel and get the crowd booing him is nothing short of a miracle. And he hasn't resorted to cheap heat. He's got this unique character for himself, this snobby, eco-warrior vegan, all things which should, you know, kind of be positive attributes, that someone's very conscious of the environment and stuff, but he's just ramming it down our throats. It's like when CM Punk was the straight edge savior and everything. It's so good. And it's not just aimed at the crowd, it's aimed at his opponents too, as we'll discuss later on. Bryan was awesome. He had a great match on SmackDown Live. He won it, and it wasn't for the title, I don't believe, but the fact that he keeps his momentum going into TLC is very exciting, and I am so stoked, guys. It's going to be super tight to see his match against AJ Styles at the pay-per-view on Sunday night. Could one of those guys top Wrestlers of the Week next week? I don't know, but it could be a possibility. Just before we move on from Bryan as well, I want to mention that he is only about 5 points away from cracking the top 25, and considering he only came back in April at WrestleMania and got bogged down a little bit before his heel turn in terms of booking on SmackDown as well, that is stupidly impressive, the amount of quick points he's managed to accrue in a short space of time. Well done, Daniel. It's almost like he's one of the best in the world ever or something. Which he is. Number 4, and a man who I've included several times on Wrestlers of the Week, and a man who every single time I mention him, I feel compelled to tell everyone he's really underrated, he's so good, you should pay more attention to him. Everyone knows he's good, but he's been done dirty again this week by New Japan's booking of him. It's everybody's 5th or 6th favourite wrestler on the New Japan roster, heavyweight division only, Hiroki Goto. Goto, once again, was a big old loser. He's got an incredible record of losses in IWGP heavyweight title matches, and now he's lost his never openweight title as well. On the bloody eve of Wrestle Kingdom, not literally, there's still a few weeks to go, but so close to Wrestle Kingdom, he's lost the belt. And the worst part is, everyone bloody wanted him to lose it as well, because if he lost it, that would set up a very exciting match at Wrestle Kingdom, and it has done. So, well done, Goto. Very selfless of you. He might be the most selfless man booking-wise in all of wrestling, given his potential, because he's really, really good, and yet he hasn't really reaped the rewards or had the glory that a man of his talent really deserves. If he was wrestling for someone like Noah or All Japan, one of the secondary promotions in Japan, he would have been a multiple-time champion by now, but he's never held the IWGP Heavyweight Championship, despite excellent matches, wonderful consistency, and being an excellent skirt wearer as well. Have you seen the battle skirt that he wears in the ring? It's flipping phenomenal, it is. and it just makes me angry that he doesn't get the rewards he deserves. Then again, I do see the other side of the argument. I see the fact that Goto is in a very impossibly crowded roster right now, surrounded by people like Okada, Omega, Naito, Suzuki, Tanahashi, of course, as well. Some of the best wrestlers in the world today. And you know what? Goto's personality out of all of those guys is probably the weakest. That's not to say he doesn't carry himself well and he hasn't got a certain charisma, but it's not as in your face as just about all of his peers. So I get why he's the nearly man of New Japan, but just for sentimental reasons, I want to see him hold that belt at least one time. Just once. Number 3. Mustafa Ali. You knew he was coming at some point on this list. A man who has honestly racked up the points on a very consistent basis throughout this series, and has done so by being excellent at wrestling. And this is kind of not always a guarantee, as Wrestlers of the Week has proven. We still see guys like Cedric down on 205 Live. We still see guys like Buddy Murphy down on 205 Live. But Mustafa Ali's had a killer year, and now looks as though he could be about to break into the main roster after that appearance on SmackDown. We got something of a dream match that we never knew we wanted until it was happening in front of us match on SmackDown, if that makes any sense. Mustafa Ali versus Daniel Bryan. Yes, I believe it was non-title, but it was still a wonderful match. But Mustafa Ali scooped so many points this week, not just because of how good the match was, and it was a good match, but he's had loads better this year. It was because of what it meant and how it was carried off. He came out the smiling babyface. Daniel Bryan slapped the taste out of his mouth for driving an SUV. Mustafa Ali was then the bravest of all the babyfaces, getting the crowd behind him, willing him on to victory against the champion. Obviously, he didn't quite manage it. He tapped out, in fact. But then afterwards as well, I loved that promo of him walking around backstage and getting high fives off the New Day and the Usos and everyone, really showing him respect. It was like the entire SmackDown brand came together to really put Mustafa Ali over. And I have high hopes for him in the future. And I just love to see him be a regular member of the roster. Now, where the hell is Andrade Cien Almas? That's what I want. It's been burning in me for this whole video. What's happened to him? He's dropped off the face of the roster. He's one of the best in the world. He's one of my favourites. What's happened to you, Almas? Can we just give him the WWE Championship, please? Let's have him win the Rumble or something. Come on. Let's just go all in on him. Number 2. If you just scroll down a bit right now, you'll see that the comment section is just ablaze with angry people. You'll see fire emojis popping off all over the place. In fact, if you are watching this now, can you just go into the comment section and leave a fire emoji to demonstrate what a total catastrophe this is for many people watching this. My number 2 is Will Ospreay, which means that the inaugural Cultaholic.com Wrestler of the Year by mathematical certainty is Mr. Ospreay. You just hear everyone in the comments go, boo! Why does Will Ospreay gain the points this week that tip him over the edge and make him Wrestler of the Year? Well, as I mentioned in the honorable mentions section, he had a match with Taichi where he was basically doing an Eddie Guerrero who was wrestling against, I think it's fair to say, a less skilled opponent, but one that he managed to wring an entertaining match out of. And even though we all kind of knew that Ospreay was going to win this and the result was kind of predictable, he still helped make it a very exciting contest. How did he make it an exciting contest? Selling. Something that Ospreay gets criticised for by people who've never watched any of his matches. They say he's all flips, no story. Ospreay is a lot of story. He was selling the ribs at every given opportunity. It was excellent. I loved it. I love the fact that this means we're going to get him against a heavyweight at Wrestle Kingdom. That's going to be awesome. And it's opening the main portion of the show as well. And I'm going to be there live. It's going to be incredible. But also, I think it just caps off what has been a phenomenal year for Will Ospreay. And I know that everyone's gone, oh, you've given him too many points and stuff and blah, blah, blah. And I do understand that to a degree. But I genuinely think that he is a fully deserving Wrestler of the Year. What a fantastic bloke. What a wrestler he is. I'm not going to go as far as Dave Meltzer and say like he's 10 times better than Shawn Michaels or anything like that. But he's a diamond in the rough, man. He's one of a kind. And I think that this year has proven that. Really hope he doesn't win next year, otherwise everyone's going to kill me. But he's not Wrestler of the Week. Yes, he's Wrestler of 2018, but he's not Wrestler of the Week. Wrestler of the Week is Coetzer Bushi. It's quite fitting, actually, that Ibushi's been the man to just pip Ospreay to the post this week anyway, because he is his opponent at Wrestle Kingdom in January, which is going to be epic and dangerous and scary and terrifying and all of those things, because both men love a bit of danger in their matches. They love jumping off a high thing. They love landing on their necks and stuff. And while, yes, it's fun to watch a little bit, sometimes it gets a little bit a little bit difficult. You watch it kind of like, oh, don't actually kill yourselves, boys. But they don't seem to care. Ibushi demonstrated his wonderful skill in a wrestling ring this week against, who was it? Goto! I've forgotten him already! I just spent like 5 minutes talking about how he's the underappreciated man of New Japan and everything. Yeah, it was against Goto. Ibushi's now the new never openweight champion and will defend that title against Ospreay at Wrestle Kingdom. And again, Ibushi, I think, if he had been focused for the majority of his career rather than just now, would be regarded as one of the best in the world, up there with Okada and Omega and stuff. And even though he kind of floated around and did silly matches in DDT and that sort of thing, despite that, he remains actually, for my money, one of the very elite, no pun intended, performers in the entire world of wrestling. So I hereby proclaim that 2019 could well be the year of Ibushi. I think he's one of the front runners to win Wrestlers of the Week next year. I think that he will have more of a consistent run. I can see him getting a title push at some point. Whether he'll dethrone the champion and win that belt is another matter entirely. But I think 2019, we're going to see some staggering, outrageous matches from Kota Ibushi, and I cannot wait to see how that pans out. Other people I think might win next year. Omega's always got to be up there. Ospreay could do a repeat. I think, in fact, it might be better to focus on guys who can float around and aren't tied down as much to a New Japan contract. I know that Omega makes occasional indie appearances like he did against Phoenix in recent weeks, so maybe he's more of a favourite than Ibushi is, truth be told. But I don't know. Could be anyone. Could be a totally new star we've never heard of before. Could be that A-Kid lad from Spain who had a 5-star match with Zack Sabre Jr. Could be me, a 2-time DDT Iron Man Heavy Metalweight champion. We're just going to have to wait and see, guys. It's tremendously exciting. So we are rapidly nearing the end of the video, but before we do so, let's have a look at the old league table. As you can see, Ospreay has won. We knew that already. It is now mathematically impossible for Zack Sabre Jr. to catch him, but the battle for second is still very much on between Zack and Kenny Omega. Kota Ibushi moves up to claim a top 10 berth just behind Tomohiro Ishii, and Mustafa Ali goes past Seth Rollins. What a result for Mustafa. Ricochet moves ahead of Cody Rhodes with Goto not far behind. I think those three guys and Minoru Suzuki have really been going back and forth over the course of the year, and as we see things round out, not much has changed towards the bottom. Or should I say the bottom of the top 25. But don't worry though, because I am pleased to announce that I think at some point after the final Wrestlers of the Week episode of 2018, we're going to try either on the website or on the YouTube channel to release the full league standings. I know a lot of people have been requesting that, and I think we should probably do it. I think we should show everyone the full final standings, so that'll be tremendously exciting. There are only 2 weeks left of Wrestlers of the Week. Who can win second place? Who can claw some points here or there? And as we've seen in many weeks actually, can someone just come out of nowhere, having never appeared on the list before, and snag all 10 points with basically no time left in 2018? I guess we're going to find out. So thank you very much for watching this video. Congratulations to Kota Ibushi. You are the Wrestler of the Week for week 50. And congratulations to Mr. Bloody Bastard Ospreay for being the Wrestler of the Year. I'm Jack from Cultaholic.com. Thank you once again for watching. If you want to, you can follow me on Twitter at Jack the Jobber. You can follow all of us at Cultaholic and check out our Patreon too, patreon.com/Cultaholic. And never forget, of course, if you haven't already, to hit subscribe and to join us.